The Rukkus has got guts, and I'm going to prove it. It would seem that this screwdriver is a little bit too thick to get down that hole there, so I'm going to get a smaller driver. That is all now pretty loose, and that should now just come apart. And there we go. Before we go any further, it's interesting to note I only found 2 different types of screws in the shell so far. The longer one, I believe, came from here, although I kind of forget. The rest of them are all these shorter type of screw. It's kind of weird though, just having one longer screw like there. For those interested in cosmetic modding, this orange kind of muzzle area looks like it does screw off from the inside, as does the priming handle, of course, with this screw there. This part here is also composed of 2 bits of plastic which will come apart. Okay, I know that was obvious before, but just confirming. And as you can see here, it's probably possible to simply clip those bits apart from each other. This grey bit comes off quite easily by simply taking a screwdriver and pushing through one of the holes. Grey bit removed. On this side of the clip you can see a bunch of little dimples running all the way up and down. And there are corresponding dimples on the inside of the Rukkus blaster. Kind of anti-dimples. So as the clip runs over these dimples, the spring allows them to lock into place, which prevents it from moving up and down when you don't want it to. Darts inserted into the blaster, make contact with the air restrictor, and open it. This is the little kind of foamy, sealy bit that I was talking about, and it's why I sanded down these edges, because I didn't want this getting ripped apart every single time this kind of went back and forth along it. And let's take a look at how it works. So we're priming. Triggers going everywhere. In terms of the internals, it's pretty much as you would expect from any other Springer. Priming the blaster, like so, pulls the spring back, which is housed in the main plunger tube. There is a catch attached to the rear of the plunger, which catches in this catch plate right here. There it is. Here's your catch plate, and there's the rear of the plungery type thing. When you pull the trigger, the catch plate is pushed up, which it's not going to do right now because it's not kind of under proper tension anymore because I'm just holding it. But when this gets pushed up, that releases the tension, and the mechanism is able to slide back forwards again. So just once more, prime. That spring pushes the catch plate back down, allowing it to catch. And then you pull the trigger, which pushes the catch plate back up, theoretically, when it's all being held in place by the shell of the blaster. Up it goes. And then that releases the spring, and then the plunger pops the dart out. If you do plan on taking this apart yourself, there are 2 springs which you want to make absolute certain you do not lose. The first spring that's likely to fly out is the spring that rests against the rear of the trigger just there. It's the spring that returns the trigger after you pull it. And if you pull it without the rest of the shell there, it will go flying off. The second spring that will just love to explode out of here so you can't find it again is the spring that's attached to the catch plate. Up here. That's where it's meant to go. When you take this mechanism out, it will try and fly out and hide itself somewhere where you're never going to find it again. Also, don't ever put these springs together because they will never ever want to come apart. They get tangled easily. The mechanism actually comes out in its entirety quite cleanly. Now, I did think I filmed this just now, however, I noticed that the camera wasn't running, so I'm just going to show it again. When you pull the priming handle backwards and return it again, this happens. Which is how the indexing clip progresses. Now, one of my main interests in all of this is the size of the spring. I was actually quite surprised at how easily this entire mechanism came out. I think this mechanism came out without unscrewing anything else at all. And I don't know if you can see this, but you can actually just make out there the head of the plunger, which says to me there's a little bit of dead space up here that could be dealt with. Apart. Now this is loose and it should just come apart now, and I'm trying to work out why it's not. There we go. So there was another hidden screw which was just through there, of course, just through that hole there. Blimey, springs galore in here. Look at them all. Okay, well, I'm not touching the rest of them. Let's leave all those springs in there. But we can now quite easily get to the plunger tube, and I'm just taking a look at this to see what we've got. So you can see our air restrictor mechanism in there. Is that going to come out? That's solvent welded, of course. So you can see how much dead space there is there. Little itty bit of dead space here too. For the sake of point of reference and comparison, this is the spring of a Jolt, and there is the Rukkus. And right here we have the Rukkus spring side by side with a hammer shot spring. Okay, clearly when I said hammer shot, I meant strong arm and plunger. And not surprisingly, they feel kind of comparable. And look kind of comparable. Diameters without measuring seem incredibly similar. That says the Rukkus spring does have more coils than the hammer shot spring. I meant strong arm. So this is the Rukkus spring and this is the strong arm spring. I don't have a set of calipers, but they do look to the naked eye to be kind of approximately sort of the same thickness. The diameters of the two are pretty much identical, which might suggest that anything which would fit inside a strong arm would also fit inside the Rukkus. So once again, in conclusion, stuff that will fit on a strong arm will probably also fit on a Rukkus. That was the fun part. Now let's talk about putting it back together again. Just because the entire unit all comes out in one blaster, don't think that Hasbro have made it easy for you. There are a couple of things to look out for when putting this back together. First of all, this bar and this spring right here. Oh man, did this give me some problems earlier? Right, I'm gonna see if I can find an easy way to show this. I don't know if you can see this little hole there. There's like a little square gap just kind of there. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. Right there. Well, basically, this bar has got to go through there, which you can kind of lift, and then it's got to go into this square gap. Whilst doing that, you've also got to try not to lose the spring. Let's get that all the way through if we can. Come on, there's a good piece of internal. There we go, right. That is in place. I think it's in place. No, it's not, is it? Yes, it is in place. There you go, that's in place. And you know that that's in place because you should be able, when it's all, you should be able to kind of push it backwards and forwards a little bit and it should return on you. Next, you've got to make sure, and this is pretty much standard on any Springer, that your bolt sled, which in this case is kind of all connected to the rest of the blaster. I just kind of pull this apart. You'll see the plunger mechanism there is on the wrong side of the bolt sled, so I can move the bolt sled up and down without any real resistance. The bolt sled has a piece of plastic on it, which must be on the plunger side of that bit at the end in order for this mechanism to work. So that's the second bit you've got to watch out for with reference to this blaster. Another thing I didn't mention earlier, so when you pull this back, there's like a little ratchet there and that's where the kind of pulling back and pushing forward noise comes from. It's that. If you want your indexing clip to index itself, there is also a piece you need to remember to put back here. Now, remember we said earlier, when this pushes forwards, it indexes the clip. And in order for that to work properly, this has to be in place. Now, what does this do? Now, let's just prime the blaster backwards. Come on, prime for me. Prime. Oh, good heaven. Spring that should go on this piece, which forces this up and into this position. As the mechanism draws back forwards again, maximum point, if you like, this releases and that slides backwards. The reason that this works is a spring that looks kind of like this, and in fact this is the exact spring. Now I'm going to put this spring up through this little hole there, and I really hope you can see this. Putting this spring up through there. There we go. Right, there we go. So I'm going to put that on there and hope that it stays now. There you go. There we go. There we go. There it is. There it is. Right, so, okay, close enough. Close enough. All right. Stay down. Stay down. And now I pull this back here. That flicks up to there. So pull it back. That flicks up into there. There it goes. And then when it goes back forwards again, it pushes the indexer into position. And then when it goes far enough, that happens and the indexer goes back again. Whew! So now that's back in position. I really can't remember which screws go where, and to be honest, so long as they go in somewhere and, you know, I'm happy. And that cheeky screw that goes in there as well. Wait a minute, why isn't that moving anymore? Why are we not moving anymore? I really want to be certain that this moves and does everything it needs to do before I put it all back together, and it stopped moving now. Why are we not moving anymore? And the final piece of the Rukkus puzzle is this, and it's actually taken me a couple of minutes to work out what was going on. You see this little square here? Well, this spring and this little piece here fits into there, and these guys need to go back into there. Man, this piece is like, this is... Ah, and so I'm going to try and sort of turn this so you can actually see it. So, right, so there's the rear of the blaster. That's the front of the mechanism. When I turn that over onto here and it has that inside it, you'll see what I mean. I didn't actually realise that this was called a floating plunger tube, but it is, and I'll link in the video where I learnt that in the description. I feel in many ways that it's actually a much better video than mine. That's kind of the thing with Nerf, is that we've all got stuff to learn from each other. That back in there like that. There we go. This spring is resting up against there. I'm literally having a ruckus inside the Rukkus. Come on, you can do this, Jolt. You can do this. Now we're going to take the rest of this mechanism, we're going to try and put it where it belongs, and that spring's just fallen out too. Go through there, and that's going to stay in. Oh, no, yes, yep, stay there. That's fine. That's good. Stay there. Stay there. Good spring. Good spring. This spring has got to go onto there when I put this on, so I've got to be like super careful when this happens. Okay. That spring's going to go on there. There we go. It's on. It's on. Okay. Now have faith and put it in. Have faith and put it in. Have faith in the bro that is has. All the springs and everything that is meant to be in the blaster is now pretty much in the blaster. Indexing clip, let's not forget that. There we go. Let's just get all these screws in there. I've got a feeling it's still not going to work when I put it back together again, but we'll see. We're still not wanting to prime, are we? So there's still a problem in there somewhere, and I have not got a clue at this point what it is. I do not have a clue what I've done to the ruckus, which is make it not prime. No, it can't be anything to do with that bar. And well done for sticking with me, guys. If you guys are still with me, then, you know, well done for hanging around. If any of you guys ever have trouble taking blasters apart and putting them back together, do not worry. There is nothing to be ashamed of. Absolutely nothing. Way round. Oh man. Oh no. Oh no. Right. I know that that's bad. I know that that's not good. Right. So all the way back. That's now primed. All the way forwards. And, you know, we could... And that now fires. Right. As far as I can tell, the ruckus, when I screw this back together, should now work. It has been an adventure. It has been a big, fun adventure. But I am now ready to end this adventure. What just happened? I think there must be some kind of obscure misalignment that sometimes happens. Now that I've put that piece in, I'm assuming that everything's going to be fine. Is that my camera battery right at the crucial moment? There is no justice in this world. I'm now putting this camera back on my head. And you know what I would really, really love to see at this point? I would love for this to go back together now and then to work. I would just love that so much. Here we go, that goes on too. Right, now I'm just going to screw a couple of these screws in before I fully commit to closing the blaster. I always love to do that. One thing I hadn't noticed before is you can actually see stuff going on inside the blaster, which is kind of nice. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of that time with the Helios. Go and check out that video. And the other Ruckus videos too. At least that bit works. Okay, well, it was working inside the blaster just now. I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do now, apart from just take it apart, do more stuff to it. That is, I have not got a clue how to deal with this, apart from just taking it apart and trying again.
That bar.
That's the only thing I can think of to do at this point. This was meant to be like a quick few minutes recording and then post, but it just hasn't worked out like that. And the annoying thing is that I just don't understand why. Like, if you can see what's going on, then, you know, tell me at which point in the video you've realized that there's something up here, because I have not got a clue. One thing the Flywheel Master Race have got going for them is simply that there is none of this kind of stuff that happens in a flywheel blaster. There, you know, the mechanism is much simpler. If you get the soldering right, everything's fine. I don't know. I just have not got a clue what is up. I just have not got a clue what is up. There's something on the bolt sled down there that is just not doing what it's meant to be doing. Yeah, this is what you tuned in for, just to watch Justajolt unscrewing and rescrewing blasters together. It's to do with this. It's to do with this bar right here. Now what's going on? Now it's working right. So now I know it's to do with this. If you're still with me, like I said earlier, thanks so much for sticking with me, because this is one heck of a ride. Right, I'm going to screw this in as it is now and just kind of hope it stays as it is now. I've never been this defeated by a blaster before, ever. Right, I'm putting that on there. I'm putting that on there. And now let's see if we're actually going to fire and do what we're meant to do. All that, oh man, all that banging around. I bet that's going to have done something. Right, okay. So, prime, back, forward, fire, right. Okay. Basically, it was that little bar there that was clicking out of place. I'm not sure exactly what was happening to this bar, but it was something to do with the way this bar was. If the bar is kind of snapped all the way back, actually I do think I know what it is in that case. Right, this is going to be my gift to everybody who ever opens up a ruckus. Right, it's just gone back now. So it's gone back into that position where it's pushed up against there. So there's a piece up here which when it's not catching correctly, that piece there is meant to go right the way through and to the other side of this kind of square passageway here. When it doesn't do that, when it gets caught inside, that's when I can't prime the blaster. All I'm going to say is, if you do take the Rukkus apart, you've got to make sure, before you put it back together again, that this happens. If this isn't happening, then there is a problem. If that does happen, you're fine. When you put the Rukkus back together again, just make absolute complete certain that it's not like that. If it's like this, it's not going to work. And I think it's like that because that little ridge gets caught under something. I don't know exactly where because I can't be bothered to open it up and see it. Make sure this is pushed back all the way to there before you put it back together again. And then it should be fine. There shouldn't be a problem. Right, I'm going to screw this back together again. Don't ever say I don't ever tell you anything useful on this channel. Comment below and tell me if there's a blaster that you've ever really struggled to put back together. This has been a bit more of an epic journey than it should have been, but... oh my goodness, you've got no idea how relieved I am that that just kind of did that. Right, let's actually see if it fires a dart. And we fire darts. I have reason to believe that the video I'm referring to is possibly the first internals video on the web. He totally beat me to it. It's up there on the screen right now. Clickety click, there it is. This guy right here, Mongoose Jake. Nerf reviews, tests, mods and family oriented content. I'm going to be checking out more of Mongoose Jake's videos. In the meantime, I really hope you had fun watching me struggling with the Rukkus and that it provided some form of amusement to you.
Justajolt!
Yes, Mr. T-Rex?
Are you going to check what's in the stock?
What do you think, Tan?
What's in the stock?
I heard there was something happening in March. Is it Foam Fest?
It's called Foam Fest. It's in March. It's in Wigan. It's going to be alongside Quasar Nerf, Impact Northwest, and Foam Dart Stadium. It's going to be awesome. If you're not there and you're involved in the Nerf community, what are you doing with your lives?
So it's like a fest for foam?
It's like a convention for foam.
Foam Fest!
Foam Fest!
In March!
It's like a festival for foam. This is the 4th take. I need to pack up and go to Wolfpack now. It's Foam Fest. It's in Wigan. It's on March the 9th. Stop filming now.